Hello, my mimics, and welcome back to the Mimic Commentary, episode 113. This is going to be a yapper episode where we just talk about Dragon Communion, and there's a lot of interesting stuff tied to it. However, this is my second time recording it, because the first time I recorded this episode, I didn't turn on the video recording software, so I lost all of the visuals. We did something, I picked up a Mikulele, however I got the footage on another character. Also, news. If you are watching as a member or as a non-member, depending on when this comes out, I have recorded and uploaded soon the first behind-the-scenes episode of a new series that I'm trying to do. Or not really a series, but trying to do the creative process of putting together a video. This is actually, I'll tell you what that video is about right now. So in episode 77, we were talking about the blue and white wooden shield. And we're trying to figure out what these symbols mean. Oh, well, let me get rid of this guy. Let me get rid of him with one of the new spells we got. Well, we'll talk about this. Again, I bought things in the last episode, so we won't get the animations of me eating hearts, but we're able to do that. Okay. So, member Oasis had some insight on what these symbols meant. Now, we've already learned so far. After episode 77, we learned about the polar star, this 8-pointed star, which is shown on the Raya Lucaria Knight's armor, the Cuckoo armor, and their surcoats. It is found on, this star is also found on the Highland Axe. Where is the Highland Axe? The Highland Axe, where is it? Again, this is why it was hard to. I also tried to refilm the lost episode, and like that was a nightmare because like you know me, I ramble and I mumble, and I go, oh, where's the next item? The Highland Axe, which was found in front of a painting of Godfrey. This axe is also shown on the axe talisman, and that has the same 8-pointed star. There are 8 in the Divine Towers. They are divided by 8s at the top. 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then +1 in the center. So we got this polar star. We know that the blue-white shield, and it portends the fate. So this is prophecy. We have the polar star. Then we have this thing that kind of looks like a ring of some sort. Maybe of Elden make and model. Maybe that is maybe we're getting the polar star, then the Elden Ring. Like we're thinking prophecy, and it comes to Carians. Then the next one I said was, well, that looks like the Lord of Blood's Trident, because you know we're playing Mimic Commentary rules. We're trying to find things that look like what we know. However, Oasis used their prophetic vision, their prophetic knowledge, and they said the first thing that came to mind to them was Loretta's spell. Now we hadn't gotten Loretta's spell yet at that moment. But since then, we did. And it looks just like it. It looks just like it. However, with where we're at in the Mimic Commentary, what does Loretta have to do with a prophecy? What does Loretta have to do with fate? Especially the next image, which is like a diamond. I looked up what does the diamond mean in runes, and some people say it means a gateway. That the diamond or the rhombus is a symbol as a gateway. And there's 2 parallel pillars next to this gateway. Is that 2 people represented at the gateway? So where do we have polar star, ring with a line through it? We'll get that in Landell, I think. Ring with a line through it, Loretta's great bow, and then a gateway with 2 people. So really cool stuff. If you want to hear that theorizing, check out, you have to become a member, a Mimic tier, to get the behind the scenes of me trying to film that video. So how that works, it was an hour and 20 minutes of me going through my outline, trying to say the things I wanted to. Eventually, at the end of it, I wasn't able to finish the whole thing. It has to do with prophecy and mimicry. And I'm going to edit that audio and see how I can either turn that into a video or take what I said and turn that into a script And then the next episode of Behind the Scenes will be continuing that process. So my goal for the Mimic tiers, which is the level 3 tiers, I think that's $5 a month, my goal is to film the creative process of creating a video. And that video covers a lot of topics that we've been talking about in Mimic commentary, but more fleshed out. It's very rough because it's, it's me with no script, just trying to talk, just like Mimic commentary, except using all of the information of Elden Ring. So you get to see what true totality looks like when you don't have everything under control. So that's just updates. That's talking about what you members, the members have, guys have been giving me. You guys have been giving me great stuff. Join the Discord if you're not in the Discord. Become a member if you're not a member. Okay. All right, but before we jump into the Dragon Communion episode, we have to talk about the items that we picked up in this church. So the first thing that we picked up came from this guy right here. This guy looks like a noble sorcerer. He's got the same look. He's got the same crown. He looks like the noble sorcerer Ashes guy. From him, we got the Ancient Dragons Apostles Cookbook 3. Here we can see that the pages have lightning, golden lightning coming from them, and it has the sigil of the Ancient Dragon Cult on the top right. Just to confirm, show you that it's the Ancient Dragon Cult sigil. With a lightning spear, we see it right there. Just as a reminder, long ago, Godwyn the Golden defeated the Ancient Dragon Fortisax and befriended his fallen foe, an event that gave rise to the Ancient Dragon Cult of the capital. And we know that it is said that the ancient dragons who had gravelstone scales wielded lightning as their weapon and attacked Landel, the royal capital. So the ancient dragons attacked the royal capital of Landel. You can see them sitting on a tower right there with their forked lightning bolt. And eventually, Godwyn the Golden defeats the ancient dragon Fortisax, and that gives rise to this cult. Who are the cult members? Well, I did this a few episodes ago while I was off screen. It's the Landel Knights. This is the guy from Liurnia that we farmed off of. That I farmed to get the, we'll put that armor on right now. Oh, I didn't want to put that on. Also got his helmet. This is the guy who gave us the Ancient Dragon prayer book. So we could see emboldened on his chest is a symbol of Erdtree worship. Its left is emblazoned with the symbol of Erdtree worship, said to have once been imbued with an incantation of protection. Armor worn by knights sworn to defend the royal capital of Landel. This symbol is actually what we find when we cast Golden Vow. So I'll show that right now. So that's a symbol of Erdtree worship, which is very different than, let's say, Blessing's Boon, which is an ancient Erdtree incantation. So this is a symbol of just worshiping the Erdtree. This is a symbol of ancient Erdtree. Okay, so it's a little bit different. One is harnessing the power of the Erdtree itself, the ancient vital energies of the Erdtree. The other one is just coming from the worship of the Erdtree. From these Knights of Landel, the golden canopy represents the honor of standing amongst the tree's defenders. So these people are the tree's defenders. However, they begin worshiping ancient dragons that attacked their city. What are some of the things that these ancient dragon worshippers can craft? Where is the cookbook? A record of crafting techniques taught by the capital's ancient dragon cult. Details techniques that harness lightning, the weapon of the ancient dragons. Acquires the knowledge to craft the following. Dragon wound grease. Okay, so ancient dragon followers with stone scales. And this is a stone dragon right here. So these followers of these stone dragons at the capital, they learn how to make dragon wound grease. How do we make dragon wound grease? We need root resin, just like all of our greases. But this is our first one that needs beast blood, the blood of beasts. So you mix beast blood, which has glinting gold in it, and gravelstone, found in lands once beset by ancient dragons. So you take the blood of a carnivorous beast, a beast that's eating other animals, and has this glinting gold blood in it. Then you take the scales of ancient dragons, which are made of gravelstone, solidified grease made from a gravelstone mixture. Coats, armament, granting an anti-dragon effect. When the dragons were born from their ancient kin, they lost their stone scales, which can now be used to cause them mortal harm. So those are the dragons that we just fought. The dragon Agheel, the dragon Smaragd, the dragon Ezekias. These are dragons that the ancient dragon cult can make grease out of with these stones and kill them. So there is a duality to them. So this person here was known how to make this grease. They knew how to make this grease, and they came to the Cathedral of Dragon Communion. Why did they come here? Well, at the Cathedral of Dragon Communion, we can consume in the ritual of Dragon Communion the heart of a dragon to make the power of a dragon our own. Now, like the previous of the Church of Dragon Communion, this is the Cathedral of Dragon Communion, so it's much higher, much more holy place. It's closer to the Bestial Sanctum. It's closer to Farum Azula. It has one of the destroyed pieces of Farum Azula outside of it. I think the only one throughout all of Caelid. We can actually see the Bestial Sanctum from right here. So we're tied very closely to this Sunrealm dragon culture. We have our Banished Knights. If we remember, we got our Drake Blood Seal from a Banished Knight in the Fringe Folk Hero's Grave. And just like the other church, this place, the statues had been destroyed. I'm going to assume they were most likely destroyed before the ancient dragons attacked the capital, or after the ancient dragons attacked the capital, but it wasn't destroyed by a cultist. It wasn't destroyed by an ancient dragon cultist. But the important thing is, why are they destroyed? They behead the statues. They're trying to hide something. They're trying to hide something on the heads of these dragons. Well, we could see it. On the heads of these dragons is the two fingers. We see something that looks like two fingers on their heads. This dead ancient dragon, which looks like he crashed into the cathedral, just like at the church, he also has those two fingers on his crown, except he has more. So they're kind of lost within the crown. You don't really see all the fingers, but you see it very clearly on these destroyed statues. Now, the two fingers are the ones that are telling us to become Elden Lord. If they were present during the time of the ancient dragons, that means they were manipulating the Sun Realm. They were manipulating the age of the Erdtree. They've been around for a very long time. They're a very secretive religion that uses prophecy to try and predict the future and make the future happen. So very interesting stuff there. But here we're talking about Dragon Communion. Now, our first introduction to Dragon Communion came from Yura. Yura was found right here, south of the Dragonburnt Ruins, east of the Seaside Ruins. And he told us about hunting dragons. That, what did he say? He told us to steer clear of Aghill Lake because a dragon roosts there. After we lost the dragon, he's like, seems I'm forever crossing paths with hotheads like you. After you defeat the dragon, he'll say, there you are. That was my first dragon hunt in quite some time. So Yura has hunted dragons before. Paired up with a hothead like you, just like old times. Now that you've so impressively felled that dragon, there's something you should know. The heart you brought back. It's used in Dragon Communion. If you should find yourself overcome by the hunger for the heart, yearning for its strength, then seek the decrepit church on the little island off the western coast. You must not forget, though, those who partake in Dragon Communion will one day shed their humanity. Their hunger for dragon, their yearning, only worsens, until the floodgates bursts, unleashing eternal torment. The strength of a mighty dragon, magnificent but deadly. It's no surprise that Dragon Communion is ruinous work. So that came from Yura. Yura is from the Land of Reeds. He uses a katana. He uses the Nagakiba. He also has kind of like a samurai hat, like a Ronin hat. He also taught us about the Bloody Fingers. When Nereus invaded us in this river right here, he came after him to fight him. He then told us about how the Bloody Fingers are they are held in thrall by the Cessblood. That there is no ilk, there's no, what is it, amongst their ilk? There's zealots who stalk their own. There's no kinship amongst their ilk. Their madness precludes it. So these are people, he warns us, if you go do Dragon Communion, if you consume the still beating heart of a dragon, It is ruinous. It is eternal torment. Then he also tells us about the bloody fingers. The bloody fingers who are gone mad with cessblood. So Ura, this Land of Reeds guy, has this connection between the bloody fingers and Dragon Communion. Another thing interesting about bloody fingers. At Fort Height is where we find one of Godric's knights who is just mad plump for blood. Just mad for blood. From him, we get the... where is it? The Bloody Slash Ash of War, which is a blood oath skill granted by the Lord of Blood. When we go to Vare, he gives... north of Vare, we get Blood Flame Blade, which is from a incantation scarab, so the memory of someone who's there, and then there was also a Blood Noble hidden behind him. A Blood Oath incantation granted by the Lord of Blood. And after dealing damage, Blood Flame continues to build up, yada yada. Engulfs the right hand with Blood Flame. So this fire and blood. Fire and blood. Various Song of Ice and Fire. Fire and blood is the words of House Targaryen, the Dragon Lords of Westeros. As we've been traveling through Caelid, we have been finding a ton of katanas as well. We found the Washizaki, which talks about the demonic swordsman known only as Okina, who comes from the Land of Reeds. This is for blood loss, so katanas and blood loss. We defeated a magma worm, and we got Moonveil. We found the meteoric ore blade. We also found a cross naginata, which is a weapon from the Land of Reeds, also capable of dealing blood loss. So the samurai are intrinsically connected to bleeding people and getting their blood. And it's Ura who tells us about Dragon Communion firsthand. When we go to Vare, he gives us bloody fingers. And on the bloody fingers are horns. Now, we don't know much about horns yet. We don't know where these come from. When we went to Gideon, he talked about how some things could be... He was talking about his daughter Nefeli, his adopted daughter Nefeli, and how she could be more wicked than an omen horn. So to me, I'm thinking this is an omen horn. We see that the furled finger is blackened with blood congestion. It seems to have been chopped off rather unceremoniously. If we look at the Reduvia from Nereus, jagged dagger with a distinctive curved blade used by the noble servants of the Lord of Blood. This dagger rips the flesh as it enters, inflicting blood loss with sickening efficacy. A proud testament to the success of its vicious design, this weapon is perpetually coated in blood, so it's always bleeding. The Reduvia blood blade, transforming its never-drying blood stains into airborne blades. That is just like a dragon's heart that continues to beat even though it's taken out of their body. So there's this connection between the cessblood from the Lord of Blood and the dragon blood. There is a connection between the two. What happens when we do Dragon Communion? We offer up a heart to this blood here, this flame. What is this flame? Well, when we defeated that banished knight who does Dragon Communion spells, who can breathe fire, we got the Dragon Communion seal. Formless drake blood seal with a Dragon Communion crest. The sacrificial devouring of the heart gives power. Indeed, Dragon Communion is too primal in nature for the term incantation to be appropriate. This seal scales incantation with one's arcane attribute. So let's break this down. Dragon Communion comes from the sacrificial devouring of a heart. Hearts pump blood. Indeed, Dragon Communion is too primal in nature. Okay, primal in nature. The knight that had the Ash of War from the Lord of Blood, he was a Godric knight who was also carrying the gilded great shield. The red tinge in the gold coat mirrors the primordial matter that became the Erd Tree. The red tinge in gold. Where else have we seen red tinged gold? Well, if we wanted to make dragon wound grease, we would need beast blood. Beast blood is glinting with gold. It's blood glinting with gold. What else are these primal vital energies of the Erd Tree? The crucible, aspects of the crucible. This is a manifestation of the Erd Tree's primal vital energies, an aspect of the primordial crucible where all life was once blended together. Who drops old fangs? Rarely seen specimen of a beast fang. These multiple overlapping fangs grow from a single root. Perhaps they're a vestige of the primordial crucible. We can get these from killing misbegotten. The misbegotten have, kind of like I've said, dragon people. They kind of remind me of dragon men. There's the leonine misbegotten, who is like a lion misbegotten. But our typical misbegotten, they have wings, they have scaly legs, they have like bird legs with fur, red fur on their thighs, and they have scaly tails. They're like failed dragon men, but they're not. But that's from the crucible, not from dragon communion. So there seems to be this connection between the crucible, the primordial crucible that became the Erd Tree, this blood of the crucible, and the blood of dragons. They're tied together some way. They're tied together. So we do dragon communion, we eat a heart, and what do we learn about them? Transforms a caster into a dragon to spew flaming breath. So the misbegotten are people. The misbegotten are people, and we'll learn that. We actually learned that a little bit while we're running through Caelid, about the misbegotten being people. I think it's from the perfumer bottle or the perfumer. An associate of a healer, he is said to be in search of new aromatics and flatter gardens in hopes of treating misbegotten, omen, and all of those seen impure. So omen and misbegotten, omen horn, misbegotten are crucible. So these people who are seen as impure because they have this blood, is this, like if we think about old types of healing, like the impurities in the body were supposed to be the blood, so they would get leeches to bleed people to get rid of these impure blood. It looks like maybe the misbegotten and the omen, maybe they have dragon blood in them, or maybe it's not dragon blood, maybe it's crucible blood, it's primal crucible blood or something like that. It's this red tinged with gold, maybe, and that's the, let's see, that is the, what is it again? The red tinge with gold mirrors the primordial matter that became the Erd Tree. So it's gold plus red. Well, red is blood. So it's blood, it's gold that's tinged with red. So there's gold in... It makes me think of beast blood. There's something, it's like runic blood. You have rune blood. Rune blood. If you have rune blood. So we have to find the origins of where does this come from, and then we will be able to find the origins. Most likely, this is how I'm thinking George R. R. Martin. There is probably a singular source to omen, misbegotten, crucible, and dragons. There's probably a singular source, and it's tied to blood. But we have to find the original. Who is the original with that blood? And we're actually going to get a little hint to that right here at the Dragon Communion. So we have Dragon Fire. Incantation of those who've hunted dragons and feast upon their hearts. Theirs is a pure and overwhelming power. Glintstone Breath. The extraordinary individuals who perpetuate Dragon Communion are called the dragonhearted. This is funny because it's telling you that people who consume dragons get dragon hearts. It's a little foreshadowing that we're going to see confirmed later in the commentary. Before we get this information when we go to the Ruined Shroom Precipice. We're going to get confirmation about people who consume dragon hearts get dragon hearts themselves. But it's a play on words. We're also going to see in Shadow of the Erd Tree something about the dragon hearts. What else do we get? Oh, the Rotten Breath. So this dragon breathes fire. This dragon breathes glintstone. This dragon breathes rot. And this dragon breathes ice. How are they able to do that? Well, first let's look at our... And this is where it comes into where we're going to find the origins. It's very cool stuff. So first let's look at Agheel's Flame. This is going to give us a little cultural insight before we start talking about the blood legacy of the dragons. Superior Incantation of Dragon Communion channels the power of the flying dragon Agheel, transforms caster into a dragon to spew flaming breath from above. The dead gazed at the skies over the lakes of Limgrave, praying that the dragon's flame would burn them to ash. So the people in Limgrave, sick of their unending life as undead, and we know that they're unending life from undead if we look at, and abandoning their birthplace after the shattering, these undead wanderers are the pitiful product of unending life. So you have these people who can't die, wanting to be burned to ash. They don't want to turn into putrid corpses like these guys. They don't want to have to live life as a rotting corpse. They'd rather be cremated, so their spirit will be attached to a body that is no longer there. It's now ashes. It's no longer feeling. I can imagine that many people lost their minds after Deathroot prevented Erdtree burial because their bodies began to fade and fail like normal, natural, unending life, like would cause. Like your body, it's not being young and virile forever, or whatever you call it. You don't have that lively vigor for eternity. You still need, your body requires resources, and it fails over time, and you're not stuck in time. You're not eternally youthful. So eventually you'll decay. And you'll decay into a putrid corpse, so they want to be cremated. It also ties into an insight that since they can't get Erdtree burial, they're looking for dragon cremation. Well, if we go to our crafting kit, we know that in times of old, the dead were burned with ghost flame, and from those cinders arose vengeful spirits. This is from the Sunrealm era. The Sunrealm era, they were dealing with their dead by burning them with ghost flame. In outside of Raya Lucaria, we got Ancient Death Rancor. They are cinders of the ancient death hex, raked from the fires of ghost flame by death birds. So, ghost flame, these death birds, very similar to type of dragons, these birds would rake from the cinders of these cremated dead their vengeful spirits who burned in ghost flame. This gives us a little bit of insight. This undeath, this unending life, is older than the Erdtree. It existed during the Sunrealm. Otherwise, why do people need to get burned in ghost flame? Can't we just bury them in all those graveyards? There's graveyards all over the place. Well, it looks like from what we learned from D, this is where everything is like. This is where it kind of gets crazy. So, people were getting. Are there any graveyard? We don't actually have a graveyard here. This one doesn't have a graveyard. Very interesting. The Cathedral Dragon Communion and the Church of Dragon Communion, neither of them have graveyards. So you get buried into a graveyard, but D, we learned from his secret dialogue that since they didn't get in contact with Deathroot, their spirit will return to the Erdtree in time. Honeyed rays of gold deliver the spirit. So those who are buried in the graveyards, their souls should have went to the Erdtree. However, they came in contact with Deathroot, and they couldn't. If we look at our root resin, the roots of the Great Tree were once linked to those of the Erdtree, or so they say. It is for this reason catacombs are built around Great Tree roots. Resin secreted from roots of the Great Tree. Now, it's important that the Great Tree, I know that there has been, since the game has been released, Japanese says that there's no such thing as Great Tree. It's important that the Great Tree is a thing in the story because it says it in the text. It says it in the text that the Great Tree and the Erdtree are separate things. And we have been able to deduce, just by looking at the minor Erdtrees and the illusory Erdtrees and the Erdtree itself, that there is a difference between the spectral, ephemeral Erdtree and the physical Great Tree roots. And that we know that the Erdtree is not an eternal thing. It hasn't always existed. It's important that the Great Tree has existed before the Erdtree, because then it means that the people who were buried into those graveyards, their bodies were being absorbed into those Great Tree roots, into those tree roots, into those tree roots, into those tree roots, into those tree roots. But then the connection to the Erdtree is giving them these golden leaves. So their spirits are most likely being absorbed by the Great Tree, Then the Erd Tree pops up. Now the Erd Tree is, you know, hewing their stuff into memories. It's hewing their spirits into memories. And that's a whole new can of worms. But we're going to focus on Dragon Communion. But it's just important to recognize that. It's important to recognize why that distinction is there. And from Agheel, we're able to see how, since the dead wanted... since these people they're dead, it calls them dead, but they're undead. They are living these unending lives. They want to be cremated because they can't get Erd Tree burial. They can't get any burial. So this thing about Ghost Flame must have existed before the Erd Tree. And that means people couldn't die before the age of the Erd Tree, this unending life. That is what's important. Okay? That's the big important there. Our next one is Smaragd's Glintstone. Now, this is getting back into the Blood of the Dragons talk. Channels the power of Smaragd, the Glintstone dragons. Smaragd was a devourer of sorcerers, and over time his body became corrupted by their Glintstone. So because Smaragd was consuming Glintstone, the Glintstone changed his bodily autonomy. Not autonomy, anatomy. It changed his anatomy. Like a Glintstone firefly, it turned him into Glintstone. This makes us think about perhaps the Crystallians may be people who were just exposed to too much Glintstone. Too much Glintstone turned them into Crystallians. But it also shows us how malleable dragons are. Because we also get the rot. Because Smaragd consumed sorcerers, their Glintstone corrupted him. Did this dragon ice, did he consume a lot of snow? And now he's an ice dragon? The rotten guy, he's got rotted, so he's spewing rotten breath. His fire was turned into rot. So the dragons are malleable enough that if they are in close proximity to some type of element or power, they can absorb it within their flesh. Also, it's interesting that this is dragon ice. He spews icy breath, and the false dragons of the Nox, they have ice lightning. So they were trying to make lightning to mimic ancient dragons, not trying to mimic modern dragons. They're trying to mimic ancient dragons. Okay, that's actually a really important distinction. That's what I got wrong in my Baal video. I got my Baal video wrong because I was thinking that they were trying to mimic these types of dragons, but they're not. They were trying to mimic ancient dragons. So Smaragd gives us interesting insight into Glintstone, how just like the Fireflies, proximity to Glintstone can corrupt your very body. Here's where we get to really important stuff. Ezekias's Decay. Superior incantation of Dragon Communion. Ezekias, Dragon Communion Revenger, did not forget his hatred, even as he succumbed to the Scarlet Rot. So Scarlet Rot would make him forget. It'd make him rot and decay. His mind would disappear, just like the rest of his body. We think about the faithful talisman, the faithful canvas talisman, a talisman bearing an icon that depicts a group of masked figures. The figures represent the flock in prayer, their firm belief in the intangible, inspiring even the solitary founder of their religion. What is faith if not an affirmation? So the flock, the sheep, the sheeple, they all wear masks. They all have the same identities and the same thoughts, the same prayers. They are unified. They are essentially like a hive mind. There is no identity to them. We find this with the pest forager brood. Not the forager brood. Sorry. With the pests. I shouldn't have. I slipped up with some prophecy. Wielded by the pests who emerged from the swamp of Aeonia, though men might recognize the keen intellect of the pests evidenced by the spear's uncanny design, it will never be understood by them. How could we not understand the intellect of the pests? Well, when we found the Caelid Waypoint ruins over here, it was the dead being rebirth was put into practice. Rot and poison were rebirth put into practice. They were turned into the pests. The little baby pest came out of the coffins here. Now we know about soap and how we need soap so our spirit doesn't get poisoned. Filth covering the exterior eventually seeps inside, soiling one's very spirit. And the The dancer in blue, the fairy, who is the dancer in blue, sealed away a god that was rot itself. Rot is causing memory loss. It's causing identity loss. So a dirty spirit, a filthy spirit, one that's soiled to its core, is one that's kind of losing its identity. Now, the soul in this context would be where the personality and the consciousness and the thoughts come from. Like the soul is who you are. But it looks like even if you could lose yourself to a point where your soul is like maybe destroyed in some way, then your spirit, if you're, I guess what it's saying is that if your spirit is corrupted, if your spirit rots in the caves, it just transforms into, it transforms into something that's unidentifiable as to what it was previously. Like, all of the pests look the same. It doesn't matter what their past lives looked like. It doesn't matter what their past experiences were. Now all of them are the same. There's the same flock. They're the same sheep. Except there's one. There's one solitary founder. This is actually a really important insight, because when we think about people becoming one, we were thinking about the Flame of Frenzy. Do we have anything Flame of Frenzy? Now, we know about Shabriri was the first one to share it, but actually we want to look at a grape. Because the grapes show it perfectly. So inside of the grape, you could see that it has like that eye of Sauron that was created at the tower in Liurnia. An ember taken from the eye socket of a corpse. And when we were speaking to Hyetta, she was like, all of our eyes will turn into one. So the difference between the Flame of Frenzy is that everything comes into one. Everything is unified. Everything is, it's suffering. This is a madness. So it's like a hive mind that's a madness. There is nothing. It is chaos. How do they call it? It's madness. What else do we have? People who attempt to control the Flame of Frenzy succumb to madness after a desperate internal struggle. It is said that the sickness of the Flame of Frenzy began with Shabriri, the most reviled man in all of history, who lied about other people. But the difference between, like, we can look at the Faithful Canvas Talisman. What's the difference between rot and madness? There's one. Within the rot, there is still the solitary founder of their religion. The solitary founder is still singular. The solitary founder still has their identity. It's the flock that doesn't. However, with Frenzy, there is no one thing. Like, it's just Frenzy. Everything is together in Frenzy. In the Faithful's Canvas, it's one plus many. You can have all this rot, your body can decay, you can lose your identity, you can become part of the flock, unless you maintain your hatred. Hatred. He could not forget his hatred. Who does he hate? The Dragon Communion. He's a Dragon Communion revenger. So he hates the followers of the ancient dragons and their knights who are eating his brethren's hearts to become them. So he hates them. So the Scarlet Rot can make you forget. It can turn you into a rot pest. It can turn you into the many who follow one. Oh, maybe that's what it'd be. The many who follow one. Versus the many who follow none. Like, yeah, we'll figure that out. You help me workshop that, guys. He doesn't forget his hate. He doesn't forget who he hates. That is what helps him maintain his identity. So no matter how filthy and disgusting and rotted your soul could be, if you have hate, if you have the fires of hate, you can cleanse them away. This ties into Radagon. We look at our armorer's cookbooks. A record of crafting techniques left by an armorer who served the great General Radagon contains knowledge of dealing with rot, the application of fire in particular. And it has fire grease. Now, what is this guy looking at? He's looking towards the Weeping Peninsula. The Weeping Peninsula. All right. Yeah, this is, and Castilian Edgar held Castle Morn. So maybe this guy is looking towards Castle Morn. Actually, he's looking at It's hard to tell exactly what he's looking at. He's not looking at Castle Morn, but it was the banished knights who controlled Castle Morn at the behest of Godric. Which actually ties, interesting, to Hoarlu and the chieftain of the Badlands, because we deduced that Hoarlu is actually Godfrey after he goes on the Long March. When we were going to the Church of Dragon Communion, went through the Coastal Cave, and then there was a guy, what was his name? Itzvan. He was kind of wearing scaled armor. He was trying to get to the Church of Dragon Communion, and he had the weapon, the dismounter. He was holding the dismounter. The dismounter combines the blade of a scimitar, which is very similar. It's a curved sword, which is very similar to our Shamshir, which is tied to our Blue Dancer legend, because we found this in the High Road Cave. So we found this guy with the dismounter going to do Dragon Communion. And this is a weapon that's used on horseback by the Caden sellswords. Okay? The Cadens... Okay, our Cadens, they are... Wait. Their home settlement is Caden, and they fight on horseback. They're fearless mercenaries with that sword. You can find, on the Axe Talisman, a Caden helmet. And it talks about the Lord who led the Long March, who bore an axe. His loyal warriors honored him by wielding axes of their own. Why is that important? Okay, remember, we said that this is important because of the Church of Dragon Communion. We started at the Church of Dragon Communion, and there was exalted flesh. Where is it? Considered a delicacy in the Badlands, this invigorating repast was the exclusive benefit of those who they deem heroes. Okay? Remember that. That's why we got there. So, Badlands, delicacy in the Badlands, Church of Dragon Communion. To get there, we had to summon Itzvan, who had the dismounter. The dismounter is tied to the Cadens. And the Cadens, we can find their helmet. We can find the Caden helmet on the Axe Talisman. What else do we find on the Axe Talisman? Talking about the Lord of the Long March, we find the Highland Axe. This is all tying together, everybody. Where is it? We find the Highland Axe, which has a war cry. War cry is also used by the Caden sellswords. So Caden, Hoarlu, Godfrey, they're tied together, and they're also tied to Dragon Communion. Godfrey is tied to Dragon Communion because of this. And this guy is looking towards the Weeping Peninsula. You know what? Wait. We should... And at the Weeping Peninsula, that's where Godfrey defeated the lone hero, fighting for his vengeance. The lone hero a lone hero fights for his vengeance, only to fall at the hands of Lord Godfrey. The weapon that we defeated Ezekias with was the storied sword of Castlemorn, a revenger's weapon, just like the Dragon Communion Revenger. It is one burdened with oceans of anger and regret. A lone surviving champion from a country now vanished was so determined to continue fighting that he claimed the swords of an entire clan of warriors. Okay. A country now vanished. From a country now vanished. Remember that the Caden sellswords are horse lords. Or they're not horse lords. They ride horseback. So we have the horse crest wooden shield. It shows 3 horses in a gallop. That was bought by Patches at the Murkwater Cave, our fourth wall breaking guy. After we did the jail cave and we came on the other end, there was 3 gravestones. And on those 3 gravestones was the Regalia of Eocade. Thanks to Justice Blade in the Discord, we learned that Eocade translates to an Irish or Gaelic word meaning horse. And that the treasure sword of Eocade is a lesser, long-vanished domain. The copper coloration is not to be confused with rust, but is a conduit for the wielder to move it by their will alone. Swords of Eocade dance through the skies. So wait a minute. We have Eocade as horse, and it's a long vanished domain, lesser long vanished domain. We think horses, we think Cade sellswords, but the Cade sellswords also have a connection to the Lord of the Long March, Godfrey, and the Polar Star, which is on our prophecy here, our little fate. They're also tied. Eocade is a long vanished domain, and so is the country that the Revenger comes from. A Revenger's weapon. Swear an oath of vengeance upon the greatsword to avenge the clan. But what is that clan? It's an entire clan of warriors. Okay, all right, see where we're coming together? It's all coming together, I swear. Elden Ring is confusing, but it's all there. The clan, it could be the nomadic warriors. The blue color of this fabric symbolizes brisk water as fluid, flowing as the sword in the hand of its wearer. So the dancer in blue comes from nomadic warriors, whose weapons dance. But they dance like water. The blue dancer, they're dancing with flowing swords. That is opposed to the Eocadians, who are kind of like red dancers. So we have, thank you, Justice Blade, we have the red dancer culture and the blue dancer culture. And the red dancer culture was vanished long ago. So are the Cadens descendants of this red dancer culture? And if they are, does that mean Godric is also a descendant? Or if they are, does that mean Godfrey is also a descendant of this red dancer horse culture, who comes back around and essentially does like an Oedipus on Castle Morn, you know? Because what we also learn is when we look at the Grafted Blade Greatsword, Godfrey puts his sigil on the sword. Oh, the irony is amazing. Godfrey puts his sigil on the sword, but that's not his sigil. That's Sarash, the aged counselor, the Sunrealm guy. We actually saw his... I'll come back for you. We see the lion right here on the old Dragon Communion statue. This is older than the Urge of the Earth Tree. It's older than the Golden Lineage. And when we look at the Grafted Blade Greatsword, we can see that he put Sarash's icon on it, even though Godfrey was most likely the one who did this. Unless it's older. Unless, ooh, maybe Godfrey didn't do this to the sword. Oh, it was maybe Sarash who made the Grafted Blade Greatsword. And the lone hero who fought against Godfrey. Maybe he wielded this exact sword. Maybe it's talking about two different events. Maybe Eocade was destroyed long before Godfrey got there. Oh, and then maybe they built this castle. Castle Morn. So maybe Castle Morn, and remember it's microcosm. This is a microcosm. Weeping Peninsula, Castle Morn represents Stormvale. Oh, it does, because... Oh, so that means Godfrey took over Stormvale. Sarash took over Stormvale. Stormvale used to be held by the Storm King. I don't have his ashes anymore. But owned by the Hawks. So the lion subjugated the birds. And man subjugated the lion. And who are the birds allied with? They're not they're allied with the lion, but they're also allied with the Banished Knights. And the Banished Knights were the wings of the storm. They do Dragon Communion. Oh, so here's a big alliance that's coming together. And then Godfrey is aligned with... So man aligns himself with the beasts. Some men. The Horse Lord. Got Horaloo, whichever... The red... Oh, he's Red Dancer. These guys aren't dancers. Oh, that's the difference. These guys don't come from a dancing culture. So Horaloo can tie his descendancy to a dancing culture by way of the Cadens. So it's Horaloo. I'm thinking Horaloo. Caden. the Caden sellsword, so they have their ties to Eocade. Oh, Eocade and Caden. Okay, those tie together. Godfrey, Horaloo ties his ancestry to the Cadens. The Cadens tie their ancestry to Eocade. The Eocade ties their ancestry to a dancing culture because of these dancing blades. It's probably, maybe it's the same culture as the dancer in blue. It's just a split. So we have this primary dancer culture. One dancing culture is focusing on moving, is freedom of the will, freedom of the mind. You use the mind to do that. That's opposed to the blue dancer. The blue dancer who, blade in hand, the swordsman sealed away an ancient god of Rot. Like they were dancing. Sealed away a god of Rot, though the wings symbolize Melania and her undefeated prowess, though she never knew relief from the accursed rot she was born into. She has wings on her blade. So did the blue... So the red dancers align themselves with the beasts, the lion. And the blue dancers align themselves with the birds, the flying. Ooh, that makes sense. So but they also align themselves with and the birds, are they aligned with the dragons? Or are these men aligned with the dragons? Well, these men could do storm attacks. Oleg and Engval can do storm attacks. Some can do Ancient Dragon Communion. So not all Banished Knights do Ancient Dragon Communion, but they all work for the Ancient Dragons. So if we're thinking... Sorry, I didn't do this in the last episode. I think we're doing good theorizing here. So if we're thinking Castle Morn is Ancient Dragons own it, Hawks own it, and Godfrey is coming. Godfrey is coming in, like, looking like the beast. He has Sarash on his back. Horaloo is coming here with Sarash on his back, so he looks like it's the beast getting revenge. But it's not Godfrey, it's Horaloo. And this sword it could be really old. This sword could be super, super old. The storied sword of Castle Morn, a revenger's weapon. Burdened with oceans of anger and regret. A lone surviving champion from a country now vanished. From Eocade, maybe. Or their home settlement of Caden. Caden is in Eocade. That's what I think. Determined to continue fighting, a lone surviving champion now vanished was determined to continue fighting. He claimed the swords of an entire clan of warriors. Warriors, so the red warriors. Maybe the blue warriors. Oh, maybe it was... These are the swords of the blue... Maybe it was the red dancer versus the blue dancer culture. Red versus blue. In an unending war. Oh, it's ice and fire. Red versus blue in an unending war. Going back and forth, back and forth. Which side is Godfrey on? He's on both sides because he has the lion and he's Horaloo. Oh, because Godfrey is also Sarash. He has Sarash on his back guiding him. Whatever Godfrey is doing, it's because Sarash is telling him to do it. That comes from the first boss. Aged counselor who guides the golden lineage. So whatever Godfrey is doing, it's because Sarash is telling him. So Sarash's actions, Godfrey's actions are dictated by what Sarash is telling him and his allegiances. And they might be going against Godfrey's descendancy, his, like, genetics, his culture, who he comes from. Oh, he was a tool. By the way, there was a Mikola Lily here, so we're getting a lot of prophecy. Black Swordsman, show the Mikola Lily. Okay, this is stuff I gotta keep working on. We're getting into a long episode. And, this one's supposed to end special. Okay, so we think about that. How far back? Well, you know, thinking about these birds and these lions, oh my. This Banished Knight. Given, we got this shield, I didn't talk about it before. We actually should show it. This, oh. It's all coming together. Alright. Okay, I just got so excited. Let's, So before this next part, I want to... The Stormhawk King is a Stormhawk when the storm raged. After Stormveil, we go after Stormveil. There is a merchant, a nomadic merchant, right here. And the nomadic merchants are tied to the nomadic warriors because they sell the nomadic warriors cookbooks about surviving in the face of other scarcity. So the merchants are tied to the dancer culture. We also found one down here and one abandoned merchant down here and a hermit merchant down here. This guy sells... Oh, we have to really pay attention to the inventories of the merchants now. Oh, we might have to go back and look at all the merchants again. This one sold the kite shield. It shows a bird, shows a hawk, but not really. He's like a dragon, but he's not. And he has this sword. Oh, Murphy's, there's a fight going on in my house right now between the cats. And that sword really looks like... It reminds me of just a sword on the grafted greatsword. Oh. Maybe this is the leader of the Hawks, the original leader. And the original leader of the Lions beat him. Not Sarash, but like the lineage of Sarash. This is their depiction of perhaps their Stormlord. We don't have that name yet, but it's all coming together. It's a title for multiple characters. Multiple characters can be these people. This might be the original Stormhawk King. Now, after I had to farm for this shield because I didn't have it yet. This is a shield from the Banished Knights. Tall, medium-sized shield given to knights who, whether by misfortune or misdeeds, were forced to abandon their homes. Most of these knights were sent to the fringes, where they were forced to start anew, with only despair for company. So these guys only have despair. They only have despair. These fierce warriors were each and all accomplished. Perhaps that is why, despite their territorial losses, they were still named knights. So they don't have any homes to return to. Their homes are gone. All they have is despair. Now, what animal do we see on these shields? We find these guys sometimes wearing dragons on their helmets. That dragon also kind of looks like a... doesn't really look like a dragon to me. No dragon I've ever seen. But some of them, they cover up the dragon. They hide the dragon. If you were to wear the regular armor, and you put on the Banished Knight's armor, there's a dragon horn. But if you put on the Banished Knight's helmet with the scarf, they hide the dragon horn under a coat of red. If we look at the shield, a shield that speaks only of despair, what do we see? I don't know about you, but these kind of look like lilies to me. These look like lilies. And that looks like a wolf. That looks like a wolf. And so far we've found a Red Wolf of Radagon at the debate parlor. People argue about Radagon all the time. Who is Radagon? Who is Radagon? And we found another Red Wolf of Radagon behind Caria Manor amongst 5 Mikola's lilies. Now, Radagon is known for having red hair. He's known for having red hair. And this Banished Knight helm is wearing a deep red scarf, and it's used to block the winds. For on the outskirts, the winds bite, with a stinging fierceness. This tangent, this whole lore tangent that I started on, it began because I wanted to show you that connection with the exalted flesh. How do you make exalted flesh? You need arteria leaves. And so far through this series, thanks to Metaphoric and the Discord, we've been tying arteria leaves to Radagon. We went all through these loops. We spiraled all across the lands between, the microcosm of the Weeping Peninsula. You know, just all over the place. And it was because of the exalted flesh made from arteria leaves. What color is the wolf on the shield? Could it be red? Well, it just talks about despair. If they own those sword, if whoever owned this sword, if it was this old lord of the Weeping Peninsula, the lord of the Weeping Peninsula, the lord of Castle Morn, that's burdened with oceans of anger and regret, could that be Radagon? You know, if you take Radagon's name and you reorganize the letters, you can actually spell a dragon. Radagon's name is an anagram for a dragon. And at the Church of Dragon Communion was exalted flesh that you need a dragon communion heart. It was exalted flesh that you need arteria leaves, which beat. The arteria leaves have blood in them. A faint pulse can be felt in their veins, stirs the blood. And what we know about dragons is that consuming their hearts is intoxicating. It's unending power and unending torment. Your hunger worsens and worsens. All you want, the only thing that can sustain you, is hate. Hate is the only reason you can get up in the morning. A hot, red-blooded, fiery hate. You essentially become a dragon. You become the thing that you once hunted and killed. Who would Radagon hate? If Radagon could hate anyone, who would he hate? Well, during the Mimic commentary, we've deduced that the Night of Black Knives happened during the golden age of the Erd Tree. When Godfrey was Elden Lord. When the golden lineage was decimated. And when Radagon was still married to Rennala. Then we learned that her daughter, Ranni the Witch, was behind the Night of Black Knives. And from working with Roger, who told us when the Night of the Black Knives occurred, he led us to Ranni. And we learned that Ranni organized the Night of Black Knives. Not only did she have Godwyn killed, she also slew her own Empyrean flesh. Now she lives life with her soul trapped inside of a doll. And I have to ask, Did Radagon know she was going to do that? Did Rennala know that her daughter was going to take a blade of death and slay her own flesh? Did she know that? If she did, why is she using the amber egg to shed larval tears? To practice the grim art of resurrection? Core of a creature of mimicry known as a silver tear, as much a substance as it is a living organism. Material required by the amber egg, cradled by Rennala, Queen of the Full Moon, to birth people anew. If you finish the resurrection painting, you get rewarded the Juvenile Scholar set. Cap worn by young Academy scholars. The juveniles birthed anew by the amber egg of Queen Rennala, the head of the Raya Lucaria Academy. Yet their rebirth is not without imperfections, and thus do they repeat the process, eventually becoming utterly dependent upon it. Rebirth is as sleep to them. With each awakening, memory fades into oblivion. No matter how hard the dragon tried to forget, he could never forget his hate or his anger. And the only person who he could hate so much that he would never forget that hatred would be himself. The Lord of Castle Morn, ruler of the Weeping Peninsula, hated no one more than the man who failed to protect his daughter. If only he knew that she would be born again. And there's only one enemy that drops Arteria leaves in the entire game. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.